This now is another one of my favorite mixtapes that you guys put out, which was the Kabaka Pyramid, Immaculate. Listen, I was watching a video, I think it was this morning or last night, and the rhythm for Immaculate Federation dubplate came on. Then you heard like piece of the metric start. Then you heard it go into corduroy, but then it started out with the PG rhythm. I said, yo, this is freaking crazy. And then in it, these rhythms came back. It's like, how did you guys come up with that concept for one, and then even to link with Kabaka Pyramid to put out that mixtape there?
Well, bro, first of all, that what you just said shows like the levels of reggae and dancehall that you are on. Because to pick apart the pieces and by name the rhythms that are on that are used for that particular dubplate. So big up Kenny Mees, because I'll tell you that particular rhythm constructed that way is something that Kenny did. And I had done a little bit before that. There's another like just similar to that, but all different rhythms, crazy rhythm mega mix that had like Bruck Out, Showtime, Fed Up, Hydro, and a bunch of things where it was like that was the Mad Rock, and where it was just like all of the elements, like drum fills from one, another thing kind of just moving in and out. It was something that we had used for a bunch of remixes. And then not too long after that, Kenny sat down and built the rhythm that you're talking about, which we call it mix up time. The first one I did, the one I did, I called Bruck Up Mega Mix because it was kind of based off of Bruck Out. And then Kenny called this one Mix Up Time. And it was something we used here and there to voice dubs on. And I think it might have been used on the Idonia mix too.
From then?
Yeah, we might have to go back to the files and confirm that. But we used it for a bunch of stuff and like in jugglings and just like loved it. I might throw that on for someone to DJ to live because it always caught people off guard because, like DJ ears, like they got the tempo, but then, their familiar elements are coming in and out. It'll kind of always get people hyped. And so Kenny had built that one. We had been using it. And, when it came time to sit down with Kabaka and we sat down to do this mix, we wanted to kind of like, again, the same way I kind of described with Chronix and with Idonia, a little bit more like with the vibe with Chronix of like, not take him out of his element, because Kabaka is also a dance hall master, is a DJ's DJ.
100%. Rapper too?
But yeah, exactly. Rapper too. Highlight that part of him as an artist. The same way with Chronix, to like highlight it, because people were very much, Chronix we went into Roots and Chalice off of Dread and Terrible. So it wasn't dancehall Chronix, it was Roots Chronix. And Kabaka had been very much moving on, like he could still do all the other stuff and there was other stuff, but like the main channel of what he was doing was reggae. And obviously we wanted to keep that, but knowing Kabaka for a long time and knowing about all of just his versatility, we really wanted to make sure to include something like that, where he's DJing on some dance hall and some hip hop and just totally different vibe than the reggae stuff. And I put that on and he was like, oh yeah, like, yeah, of course. Like this is, and Kabaka can be more finicky and more picky when it came to beats and music and stuff like that. And like, just to jump back to the beginning of that project, it was like, it was more based on, again, a little bit of what I said about Chronix, but way more in this case based on him and his team, Bebel Rock. We have a body of work that's not going to be on the album. We're working on the album with Damian Marley. The album is not going to be out at least for another year. We want to do something to keep energy. And again, it was a very thought out. They're an incredible team, and they're very thoughtful. And so is Kabaka as well. He's a full part of it. Like these are guys that they're like, they hold their regular meetings and go through the business. And so the mix became, what it came to be was as a part of this plan leading up to The Calling, what became The Calling, and winning a Grammy, which is all incredible. And so I had talked to Kabaka and I had talked about doing mixes. It was like, yo, this is like, again, we have a long time link with Kabaka from, it's not his first song, but his first song that people really knew him as a dancehall guy, King Kabaka, that had the Dawn Penn drums chopped up. And that had this hip hop element in it. It had the cutting up in the chorus. And to tie this all together, that was produced by Equinox.
Okay.
And so that record had a hip hop sensibility, and it was when I heard it, it was a guy DJing in a, like, this is straight dance hall, but also somehow totally raised on hip hop. You know what I mean? Like what he was doing in all of the things. So it was just like, that was a record that blew my mind, that I fell in love with. And Alric and Boyd, who are part of Federation, I was like, yo, like, and they were like, Kabaka? They were like, yeah, like, we know Kabaka since he was a rapper 10 years ago. They used to play Kabaka rap songs on their radio show on the Fat Block on Fame FM. And I was like, what? And so he was like, yeah, I'll go link him. And so like 2 days later, boom, 3-4 Kabaka dubs. And I was like, yo, this is incredible. Before I had ever even met him. And so again, just to the building of the link. And so that was years before. And so we had talked, many years later about doing mixes, and, funny enough, in the cycle of things and the cycle of people who, do this and who love it, Kabaka Mixtape, Walshy Fire, Major Lazer.
Yes, guy.
Which I love. I don't remember the name of it, but like that was dope. Like I love, like that's all family. And but it's funny because then we're again in the same thing of like, and again, it did so much for Kabaka, and that mixtape has one of the most incredible songs in the universe, one of the most incredible pieces of Chronic's vocal in the universe. I don't remember the name of it. It's the two of them going back to back. And it never came out as a real song.
It never came out.
Never came out as a real song. And that also has Kabaka versus Pyramid over
yes.
The Biggie record, where Biggie is like rapping back and forth with somebody, but they're both him. And Kabaka does
the Accurate Mixtape. That's what that mixtape was called.
Accurate, yes. And so Kabaka does Kabaka versus Pyramid, which is Kabaka, the reggae artist, the dancehall artist, versus Pyramid. One of his original rap name was Ronnie P.
Okay.
Ronnie Pyramid. And so like they did that on that mixtape. So they did some mind-blowing things on that mixtape. Walshy had him rap over a Brand Nubian beat, I think like All for One or something, like crazy. Like I love it. And so then we're talking about doing it. So like then we get to enough years later, and Kabaka and I are talking about doing a mix. And it was like, yeah, and the things fell into place, and the time was right. And I said to him, I was like, look, like obviously, like we want to make sure this is really different than what you guys did. And my intention has always been to do something different than what you and Walshy did. I said, because one, that's what we do as Federation, but also like I think it benefits you as an artist the most. And so he had this whole bank of work that of music that they wanted to kind of like rinse out before doing the album stuff. And so we kind of started from that place with a lot of music, and they sent me a ton of music. And it was also really interesting because it was, again, like a new level of collaboration, because we were on Zoom meetings like every week, like with his team, like Dwayne, Abby, and Kabaka, like going over track lists, going over songs, going over ideas. You know, we're coming up with a million different names. And it's like, I was like, well, look, like I would have called it Accurate, but like you guys used that on the last one. And we're going through, but we're having like, we're having full on like team meetings. And I finally was just like, I was like, you know what? I was like, honestly, this should just be called Immaculate. Cause his, again, back, you know, like it all ties in back to Cartel and up to the time. And like they had already named their first mix Accurate. When you hear Accurate, Immaculate, that's Kabaka. Like so the name is like this with Kabaka Pyramid. If you know Kabaka Pyramid, I said, but also the word Immaculate is correct. You know what I'm saying? In like, now we're going to make the Immaculate, like clean, like when you talk about like in a dance hall way, like clean, all the way clean, something, you know, not that anyone can make anything perfect, but like that's the idea. Like,
For
okay.
sure.
And that he's this immaculate lyricist. And again, that's where that comes from. He is accurate and immaculate. So we were like, yo, and it all kind of locked in because we were kind of coming, we didn't have a good name locked in. And so we came to that and we were like, all right. And then things really started locking in. And another element that I really wanted to add to that, again, to do something different was instead of having it all be like him talking as interludes, I was like, I want to find audio clips that can do that same sound man thing that I was talking about earlier of like, yo, da 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 da, and the talk that introduces the record. So the record hits even harder. I was like, and we talked about that a couple times in this conversation and doing that in different ways. And so with Kabaka, I was like, I want to do that by using snippets from other things, unrelated things, like not necessarily like dance hall things, as it were. And I just started searching so I started from the place of like, before we even had all the songs, just like knowing Kabaka and searching, like, I started downloading Haile Selassie speeches, started downloading Marcus Garvey speeches. I started downloading Malcolm X, Martin Luther King speeches. Kabaka was talking to me about Peter Tosh being one of his favorite artists. And I started looking through Peter Tosh things. And so I had this whole bank of those. And as we started putting the mix together, I started hearing how certain things that I found could do what I wanted them to do. And I think it's, the Kabaka song, Believe. Believe in I myself. I believe in I myself. And so like I already have this folder. And so then they send me that and it's like, in the intro before he even starts DJing and singing is like, Garvey teach me, without belief in self, you're twice defeated. Like that classic line, like, you know, if you don't believe in yourself, you're twice defeated already.
In the race of life. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, I'm like, I have Garvey snippets in the thing. We're going to use Garvey talking. And it's not him saying that.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to use Garvey talking to lead into this. Cause I'm like, before I even made the connection of him saying, Garvey teach me, I'm like, okay, believe in myself. I'm like, all right, this is that bank of things. This is not Peter Tosh. Like this is, I already know that's Garvey talks. And so, but then like with the words actually connected, and then there's all this other stuff as we're putting the mix together, and there's all these things that we have, and he sent me some things and I had some things that we were like, here's how we can tie this together, weave it into a story. And then, you know, going back to the name, I was like, you know, okay, so normally what do you do for a mixtape? You do a drop. We're going to do a drop. Most of the mixtapes start with drops. Cartel mixes all start with drops. Idonia starts with a drop because I had to have him do it afterwards because we didn't have it. Chronics, he does like a little like, he does like a little 4-line, 5-line freestyle that we do a cappella with sound effects is the first thing. So you get Federation, the name of the mix, whatever, this kind of like checklist that I have to do. Mm-hmm. So I was like, all right, how can we again try to do something different? And so then I just start going on YouTube, searching Immaculate definition. And there's all these weird videos of people like describing Immaculate things or whatever. Just, it's like you go into these weird corners of YouTube and whatever. Mm-hmm. And I pulled a bunch of them, and then I'm going through, and it's like if you listen to it, like you don't even need to see this video. That's the whitest voice you could ever find. Like that guy's name is probably Chad. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just him. It's him giving this perfectly enunciated description of what Immaculate means. He even says in it, like, you know, he's giving examples like a piece of music can be immaculate, played perfectly. Da 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 da. And I was just like, yo, and it's just like putting together this. And I didn't get to this point yet, but this is all of these mixes. What it's like, it's putting together a puzzle.
1,000%, boss. 1,000%.
It's like putting together a puzzle, but you're also making the pieces as you go along. They're not dumped out in front of you. Like you're creating them and putting the puzzle together. And so like,
well, you're going in with that mindset, knowing that this is a puzzle and there's going to be pieces that I have to invent as we go along.
There's a question. I needed to give it an answer. There's a problem that needs to be solved. And this is what we're trying to get to at the end of it. And then like right out. And then so I was like, all right, this is this like totally like kind of like opposite of reggae sounding thing. And then I was going through all these Peter Tosh clips. And like, I didn't have anything to use Tosh in that worked anywhere else. That was like the right anything. And then there's just like I can't even try to imitate it, but like Tosh has the illest voice. And just like when he talks, it's serious. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know if maybe he's probably has, but I feel like he's never told a joke. You know what I mean? Or like skin teeth. Like it's so dread and terrible. And there was just this one line where he goes, this music, reggae music is the king's music. And so that was what led from this Immaculate talk into like that was how we ended the intro. And I just like, I felt like at that point, I felt like the puzzle had come together. You know what I mean? So like being able to sit, you know, like, so a bunch of that, most of that was, if not all of it, was done during the pandemic. We may have started the talks about it prior, and maybe a few works, but like the finishing things for that mix were recorded in the pandemic right here where I'm sitting. Like that wall behind you is where we recorded the freestyle, the dub that you asked me about, him DJing over Above the Clouds, which is the Gangstar beat, and there's 2 dubs on Real Rock. There's a tune he does called Reggae Music, which is just basically like a tribute to reggae. And then we did the version of he had redone Michigan and Smiley's Nice Up the Dance. For a compilation. So all of that we recorded sitting right here. And my photographer Show Shots came. It was me, Kabaka, and Show Shots, just like taking pictures and filming video. And so we kind of sealed up the recordings for it, and then I right here, and then I put the rest of it together. And we did a lot of back and forth. It was an interesting and different process from from anything I had done with anybody else. And then that hit the road. And it was, and it turned out to be as they wanted it to be, the step leading up to, very specifically leading up, because they took a lot of those unreleased songs, then they released them on DSPs. So they're on the Spotify's and the Apple Musics, but they exist as a part of the mix. So they kind of rinsed out all of that music while they were working on The Calling with Gong. And then, The Calling comes out. The rest is history, in terms of Kabaka and winning the Grammy. So again, just like as a fan, like having insight into that process, and getting to work with him on that, the step leading right up to that, was great experience, man. Incredible.
This podcast is brought to you by www.twolinedmusichut.com.